In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Adorable Will, I want to pray these titles, but I am unable to do it. Come and do it with me, and I'll do everything well.
Jesus and Mary, I glorify you, and I praise you, one with Luisa, the crier of the divine will. Luisa, the telegraph of the divine will. Luisa, the little trumpet of the divine will that calls the attention of those passing by to listen to her. Luisa, tiny little stream. Luisa, the soul identified with Jesus. Luisa, the repeater of the divine acts. Luisa, whose acts are divine and similar to Jesus's. Luisa, whose acts in the divine will assume the image of a supreme quality. Luisa, who does nothing but produce divine images. Luisa, who rises again to new divine life, to new love, and to new beauty. Luisa, depository of the greatest gifts of her Creator. Luisa, depository of the highest knowledges of her Creator. Luisa, the head of a mission who must embrace all the members, rule and dominate them, and constitute herself life of each of them. Luisa, the head of a mission, suffering more than anyone and loving everyone. Luisa, the head of a mission who prepares the food, the life, the lessons, the offices of those who want to follow her mission. Luisa, who must form the tree with all the fullness of its branches and the multiplicity of its fruits. Luisa, head of a mission that must suffer, work, do alone everything that all others together will do. Luisa, head of a mission, and all that she possesses surpasses everything and everyone. Jesus and Mary, I praise you, and I thank you, one with Luisa, head of a mission who can be compared to the sun. Luisa, whose mission is great, embracing everything and everyone, preparing the kingdom of the divine will for the human generations. Luisa, whose every act is a new horizon that she makes arise for the human intellect to long for the light of the good that the divine will possesses. Luisa, depository of the secrets of her Creator. Luisa, who makes known a celestial kingdom, manifesting its secrets, its prerogatives, its goods to draw souls to love it, long for it, take possession of it. Luisa, who the divine will calls to union with its single act. Luisa, Jesus' spokesperson, to whom he entrusts the secrets of his kingdom. Luisa, whose acts acquire the nature of true good. Luisa, whose love, prayers, thanksgivings, everything take their place in an eternal beginning that never ends. Luisa, whose prayer acquires full value and complete fruit. Luisa, whose prayer goes around throughout eternity, giving itself to all. Luisa, whose love acquires the nature of true, unshakable love that never fails, that never ends. Luisa, whose love loves all, gives itself to all, and remains always with the fullness of good of the nature of true love. Luisa, whose acts enter into the inscrutable ways of God. Luisa, whose operating in the divine will raises her to a high place. Luisa, who was given back the nature of good, just as she was delivered from the womb of her Creator. Luisa, how beautiful on her lips is the prayer for the triumph of the kingdom of the Supreme Will. Luisa, whose prayer is the echo of Jesus' prayer, of his sighs, and of all his works. Luisa, one who is capable of comprehending the celestial language of the kingdom of the divine will. Luisa, one who is capable of receiving the gifts of the divine will. Luisa, one who is capable of looking at the divine will's beauties. Luisa, one who is capable of forming one single life with the divine will. Luisa, one in whom the divine will converts its virtues into nature as she abandons herself prey to its light and heat. Luisa, Jesus' daughter. Luisa, the triune God's daughter. Luisa, daughter of the celestial Mama. Luisa, the daughter of the angels and of the saints. Luisa, daughter of the heavens. Luisa, the daughter of the sun. Luisa, the daughter of the stars. Luisa, the daughter of the sea. Luisa, the daughter of all. Luisa, to who all are fathers to. Luisa, whose daughtership is long. Luisa, one who has the right to such vast paternity and to such a long daughtership. Luisa, one who has the right to be loved by all with paternal love, because all recognize her as their daughter. Luisa, in who all created things see the same will that reign in them, and hold her as the daughter of their wombs. Luisa, who has so many bonds between her and created things, as to surpass in an infinite way the natural bonds between father and son. Luisa, bound with bonds of justice to all the riches, glory, honor, the privileges that such a vast paternity possesses. Jesus and Mary, I thank you and I esteem you, one with Luisa. As Jesus' daughter, he gives her all the goods of redemption as gifts. Luisa, as the triune God's daughter, she is endowed with all the goods of the sacrosanct Trinity. Luisa, as daughter of the Sovereign Queen, she receives the Sovereign Queen's sorrows, works, love, and all of her maternal merits as gifts. Luisa, as daughter of the angels and of the saints, they compete among themselves to give her all of their goods. Luisa, as daughter of the heavens, stars, sun, sea, and of all created things, they feel honored to finally have their daughter and to be able to give her their inheritance. Luisa, for who the divine will, with its endless light, forms for her the deed of all creation. Luisa, whose vast paternity that she possesses and long daughtership is a cause of joy for all. Luisa, in who the divine will reigns and constitutes her the daughter of all things created by it. Luisa, who so many protect, defend, and love as their true daughter. Luisa, the soul in who everything is linked. Luisa, who everything is in relationship between creator and creature. Luisa, the soul who lives in the reflections of the Supreme Majesty. Luisa, the soul in whom the likeness of the Supreme Majesty grows continuously, making her be distinguished as their daughter. Luisa, daughter whose office is the mission of the Supreme Fiat. Luisa, whose duty is to go up on the rays the Supreme Majesty emits and fulfill her office in the bosom of the Eternal Son, to take the fullness of Jesus' will, know it, and manifest it to others. Luisa, the soul whose nature remains endowed with the likeness of her divine nature. Luisa, who, more than a daughter without being told, feels honored to do what her father wants. Luisa, who returns to that single act of God. Luisa, everything she does converts into light. Luisa, the soul whose acts are naturally incorporated and identified with the eternal light of the Son of Divine Will. Luisa, in whom Jesus deposits the kingdom of the Supreme Fiat. Luisa, who gives Jesus the field in order to open the ways and prepare the place in which he must lay the kingdom of his will. Luisa, whose union with Jesus is bound, written, signed on the eternal basis of his will. Luisa, whose whole being, desires, affections, and inmost fibers are bound with eternal bonds that the divine will flows in. Luisa, who Jesus cannot leave. Luisa, the divine will's little daughter. Luisa, in whom the kingdom of the Supreme Fiat is formed. Luisa, to whom Jesus transmit what his humanity possesses. Luisa, in whom the kingdom of the divine will is present. Luisa, in whom Jesus' whole life lines up inside and outside of, as guard and defense of his kingdom in her. Luisa, who Jesus awaits in the unity of the supreme light of the divine will, to give her his surprises and lessons. Luisa, creature, who possessing the divine will, acquires the rights of communion, of likeness, of all the goods of her Creator. Luisa, whose continuous round in the supreme volition, her incessant prayer for the divine will to come to reign, her sacrificed life, are props that Jesus places before his justice so that the kingdom of the Supreme Fiat can be given back to the human generations. Luisa, the Supreme Majesty's little daughter, who comes on their knees, and in the name of all, pleads for their fiat, their kingdom to be known to all, for the triumph of the divine will. Luisa, the divine will's little daughter. Luisa, whose task is great, who Jesus entrusted his divine will to. Luisa, who places the rights of the divine will in safety by making it known. Jesus and Mary, I esteem you, and I honor you, one with Luisa, who works with Jesus for the formation of the kingdom. Luisa, in who the kingdom of the supreme fiat must first be well established, formed, and matured between her and Jesus. Luisa, one who forms the fullness of the day. Luisa, daughter who Jesus keeps for himself, to form in her the kingdom of the supreme fiat. Luisa, who Jesus makes suffer to spare the world. Luisa, who does the third plane in the divine will. Luisa, whose plane must be equal to Jesus's and unified to that of the celestial empress to impetrate the kingdom of the supreme fiat. Luisa, who must do a universal good to bind to all creatures the good she wants to give. Luisa, one who possesses the divine will, and by right acquires all the goods that the fiat possesses. Luisa, one who acquires by right the likeness of her Creator. Luisa, one who acquires the right to divine sanctity, to his goodness, to his love. Luisa, by right heaven and earth are hers. Luisa, who the divine will's fount is in. Luisa, the true heaven that narrates the glory of God and announces itself as the work of God's creative hands. Luisa, the victory of the supreme will. Luisa, the triumph of the supreme will. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus' will, who formed the kingdom of the divine will together with Jesus with so much sacrifice. Luisa, to who Jesus' love can never say enough to. Luisa, to who Jesus' love can never deny his word to. Luisa, in who Jesus' love cannot stop pouring the continuous flow of his graces. Luisa, Jesus' little daughter. Luisa, who has no need of words to understand Jesus. Luisa, who Jesus pours all of himself in and pours her in himself. Luisa, the primary cause in order to form the kingdom of the eternal Fiat. Luisa, who Jesus gives the raw materials for the formation of a kingdom so holy. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus' will. Luisa, in who the divine will reigns, making her feel the pain of many divine lives that creatures cut off from it. Luisa, who forms many acts of submission to Jesus' will. Luisa, whose mission regards the eternal Fiat. Luisa, who suffers as many deaths for as many creatures who rejected the life of Jesus' will. Luisa, in who Jesus must find all the satisfactions that creatures have not given the divine will, and all of its lives it was to make arise in them. Luisa, who lives under the press of a hard martyrdom. Luisa, daughter who wrote on paper what Jesus first wrote in the depth of her soul. Luisa, whose acts fused dissolved in the divine will form the special sun that must illuminate a kingdom so holy. Luisa, firstborn daughter of Jesus' will. Luisa, first daughter of the love of our Celestial Father. Luisa, first among all to be loved. Luisa, first daughter of grace. Jesus and Mary, I honor you and I cherish you, one with Luisa, first daughter of light. Luisa, first daughter of glory. Luisa, first daughter to possess the riches of her divine Father. Luisa, first daughter of creation. Luisa, firstborn daughter of the Supreme Will, who contains all the bonds, relations, rights that befit a firstborn daughter. Luisa, firstborn daughter who contains the bonds of daughtership. Luisa, firstborn daughter who contains the relations of communication to all the dispositions of her Celestial Father. Luisa, firstborn daughter who contains rights of possession of all the Celestial Father's goods. Luisa, first daughter delivered by Jesus' will. Luisa, first in the love of her Creator. Luisa, first in all things of her Creator. Luisa, first to enclose within herself all the love and goods of the other children. Luisa, firstborn by right and justice to possess altogether the goods of the others. Luisa, to who the divine will entrusted everything, gave everything. Luisa, firstborn daughter in who is the origin of all things. Luisa, firstborn daughter for which creation was created. Luisa, firstborn daughter who is the purpose for which the divine action and love entered the field. Luisa, firstborn daughter of the divine will, who is the primary cause of all the work of a God. Luisa, firstborn daughter who all goods derive from. From her they come, to her they return. Luisa, firstborn daughter, fortunate one who has primacy in love and in all the things of her Creator. Luisa, who, as firstborn daughter, Jesus was bound to frequently come to. Luisa, Jesus's firstborn daughter. Luisa, the primacy that Adam lost as firstborn son has been passed on to her. Luisa, firstborn daughter in who Jesus enclosed all the goods that he was to enclose in Adam. Luisa, who Jesus looks at as first creature come out of the triune God's hands. Luisa, one who is always the first before her Creator. Luisa, whose fortunate is of being the firstborn daughter of Jesus's will. Luisa, the soul whose each act, prayer and pain, becomes light and forms one more ray in the sun of the eternal volition. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus's will. Luisa, daughter of Jesus's will and newborn in it, who follows its acts as its faithful daughter. Luisa, who has the essential glory. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus's will. Luisa, creature who enters the field of creation to keep the divine will company. Luisa, who moves Jesus's very will in the sun, the heavens, the sea, in everything to pray for the kingdom of divine will to come. Luisa, the divine will's little daughter. Luisa, who possessing the divine will has the source of light, of sanctity. Luisa, who Jesus occupies himself with forming and extending the kingdom of the supreme Fiat. Luisa, who helps Jesus in the work of the new formation of his kingdom in the midst of creatures. Jesus and Mary, I cherish you and I love you, one with Luisa, whose soul Jesus bound to all creation and redemption. Luisa, one who lets herself be dominated by the divine will, is under the influence of all its acts and receives the effects and the life of what Jesus did in creation and redemption. Luisa, who everything is in relationship with and bound to. Luisa, firstborn daughter of Jesus' will. Luisa, Jesus is doing the same with her to prepare the kingdom of the supreme Fiat, did with the sovereign queen for redemption. Luisa, who Jesus makes cross the endless sea of the kingdom of the supreme Fiat to give her access to the celestial Father. Luisa, who Jesus keeps all occupied in her interior with the work of his kingdom. Luisa, who goes around continuously to redo, to complete everything needed, and that all should do, to in order to form the great miracle of Jesus' kingdom. Luisa, through her, Jesus makes the great miracle that man return to him, into the origin from which he came. Luisa, one who possesses the knowledges of Jesus' works. Luisa, filled to the brim with the acts needed before the celestial Father to make known and to impetrate the kingdom of the divine will upon earth. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus' will. Luisa, blessed daughter who gives back to Adam the honor and glory that he lost by doing his will. Luisa, daughter dearest to Adam, who took on the commitment of giving back to God the glory as if his will had never been offended by Adam. Luisa, who took on the commitment of giving back to Adam the great honor that the kingdom of the supreme Fiat be established once again in the human generations. Luisa, blessed daughter who by right Adam gave the place that had been destined to him as the first creature that came out of the hands of our Creator. Luisa, daughter whose acts in the divine will the whole of heaven await, in order to receive the honor that their human will has taken away from them. Luisa, in who Jesus placed more grace in than he placed in Adam. Luisa, in who Jesus placed his humanity as help, strength, and as cortege of his will. Luisa, little daughter of Jesus' will, who has the right to know what he does. Luisa, divine will's own daughter. Luisa, daughter of Jesus' Fiat.
You have reached the end of day 16 of the Titles of Luisa. Fiat.